He invited her lover's family to watch her world crumble. The storm outside was nothing compared to the chaos brewing in the mansion's grand hall. Crystal chandeliers flickered as thunder rolled across the sky, their trembling light reflecting in Alessia's wide, terrified eyes. She clutched her silk dress with trembling fingers, her heart pounding so loudly she could barely hear the murmurs of the guests. His guests. Every face staring at her belonged to strangers, yet she recognized the cold satisfaction in their smirks. They were here for a show. Her downfall. Leonardo Valtieri, the man she married just 1 year ago, stood at the top of the staircase like a puppeteer pulling every string with cruel precision. His black suit fit perfectly, just like his vengeance. Alessia remembered when that same suit jacket once shielded her from rain, when his hands offered comfort instead of fear. She used to believe he loved her more than anything. Now she wasn't sure he ever loved her at all. "Ladies and gentlemen," Leonardo's voice echoed, drowning out the storm. "Thank you for coming on such short notice. Tonight we celebrate truth. Truth." The word sliced through her like a blade. Alessia saw them then, her lover Marco's family, sitting front row as though they held VIP seats to her destruction. Marco's mother refused to look at her, but his father's glare burned with rage. They had never liked Alessia, even when she and Marco were teenagers, dreaming under the stars. Back then, everything had seemed so innocent. Until Marco left, until Leonardo arrived, until destiny trapped her in the wrong man's arms. "I have prepared something special," Leonardo continued, his lips curling into a venomous smile. "A gift for my dear wife." He lifted a small silver remote. Alessia felt her vision blur as panic tightened around her throat. "Please," she whispered, her voice as fragile as glass. "Don't do this." But he pressed the button. The screen behind her flickered to life, first static, then an image. A hotel room, a pair of hands, two lovers tangled in stolen nights. Marco's face appeared clearly, then hers, laughing, kissing, sinning.
"Oh, Alessia," he murmured, "you should never have broken a Valteri's heart." Lightning cracked across the sky. The latch snapped open, and the lid creaked open like a coffin waking. A man's groan rolled out low and broken. 2 guards lifted Marco from the trunk, his wrists bound, his face bruised, shirt torn like he'd been dragged through hell. Alessia's knees nearly gave way. Her breath shattered into fragments. "Marco," she choked, stumbling forward before a bodyguard slammed an arm across her chest, halting her. The crowd erupted into horrified whispers. Marco's mother screamed his name, but another guard held her back as well. Marco's head hung forward, sweat dripping from his hair. Yet when he finally looked up at her, even through pain, his first word was her name. "Alessia." Her heart cracked open. "I'm here. I'm so sorry." "Isn't love beautiful?" Leonardo taunted, circling Marco like a predator circling prey. "He was so very eager to fight for it, but he lost." Marco's father shoved people aside, eyes blazing. "You monster! You think you can torture my son like this and get away with it?" "Get away with it?" Leonardo laughed. "Sir, you and your wife were the ones who begged me to take care of the problem your son created. You didn't want her ruining your family name, remember?" Marco's mother shook her head violently, tears streaking her cheeks. No, we never agreed to this." "You agreed to silence," Leonardo snapped, his handsome facade warping into something venomous. Alessia's eyes darted between Marco and Leonardo, horror tightening like vines around her lungs. "Leonardo, please, he doesn't deserve this. I'm the one who—" "Yes," Leonardo cut in sharply. "You are." He leaned close, voice dripping with betrayal. "You vowed to be mine, and yet your heart was always his." He yanked Marco's head up by his hair, forcing him to face Alessia fully. Marco groaned in agony. "You should have stayed away from him. Instead, you kept a piece of him hidden like a secret flame, burning, growing, mocking me." Alessia tried to reach Marco again, but the guard blocked her path. "Leonardo, I came back to you. I tried to fix things." "You came back because you were scared of losing the luxury, the protection, the life I gave you." He stepped back, eyes narrowing. "But you never feared losing me." Marco's bloody lips curved into a faint, rebellious smile. "Because she never loved you," he whispered, defiant even as his voice cracked. The room froze. Leonardo's expression shifted, something dark, bottomless, roaring behind his eyes. The crack of his palm against Marco's face echoed like gunfire. Marco collapsed sideways, coughing hard, blood pooling at the corner of his mouth. "Stop!" Alessia screamed, her voice shredded raw. Her legs moved on their own, but she was shoved back again. "Leonardo, stop! You've already made your point." "My point," he hissed, stepping in front of her. "We're just getting to the best part." He motioned toward a waiter who hurried forward with a tray. On it lay a velvet-covered box. Leonardo opened it slowly, revealing a pair of golden scissors, polished and cruel. "For months, my wife has worn the most exquisite symbol of my devotion." His fingers hovered above the diamond necklace resting against her throat, a gift he once clasped with tenderness. "Every jewel," he continued, "chosen to show the world she belonged to me." With a frighteningly calm smile, he took the scissors and slid them beneath the chain. "No," Alessia whimpered, gripping his wrist. "Leonardo, please, don't do this here." But he pushed her hand away effortlessly. "You betrayed what this necklace stood for," he whispered. The chain snapped. Diamonds scattered across the marble floor like tears, rolling, tumbling, lost. Alessia touched her bare neck, feeling suddenly exposed. Her breath shook violently. "She belongs to no one," Marco growled hoarsely, lifting his head again. "Not you, not me." Leonardo turned slowly, as though savoring every coil of anger in his tightening muscles. "You still think you have a voice here?" he smirked. "Let me show you what she chose." He reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 documents, marriage papers. Alessia recognized the signatures instantly, hers and Marco's, dated years ago, before she ever became Mrs. Valtieri. Her past, resurrected like a ghost. "I had my investigators dig a bit. Turns out, your forbidden love went a little too far. You and Marco secretly married before he ran away." Her vision wobbled. The air vanished from her lungs. That marriage had been their desperate promise, a plan to flee together, a plan that failed the night Marco disappeared. She thought he had abandoned her. Imagine my surprise when I realized our union wasn't just tainted, it was illegal. You were already married. Gasps spread again like wildfire. Faces turned to her with disgust, sharpened by scandal. Leonardo lifted the papers higher. "So tell me, Alessia, should I file these? Should I let the world know my perfect wife is actually a fraud, a bigamist?" Her voice cracked into silence. Shame and fear strangled every word in her throat. Marco's father roared again. You can't use that against them. You kidnapped my son. Leonardo shrugged dismissively. He's alive. That's generosity enough. He stepped close to Alessia, gripping her chin so tightly she winced.
If you want him to stay alive, he murmured, you will kneel right now in front of his family, in front of everyone, and you will admit to them what you are. Her knees shook. Tears blurred the room. Leonardo, she whispered, barely breathing, don't make me. Kneel, he repeated, cold and merciless. The guards tightened their grip on Marco. Alessia's gaze flicked toward Marco, broken yet still fighting to focus on her. His eyes pleaded, don't give him the satisfaction. But if she didn't, Leonardo would destroy him, right here, right now. The walls closed in. Her world spun. The storm outside howled as though protesting fate itself. Her legs trembled, bending, lowering. Leonardo's cruel smile widened, then suddenly froze when a sharp voice cut through the chaos. That's enough, Leonardo. Every head turned. A figure stood in the doorway, soaked from rain, fury radiating like fire, not at Alessia or Marco, but at Leonardo. And Alessia's heart stopped when she recognized who it was. Valerio Valteri, the true heir to the Valteri Empire, the man who vanished 2 years ago without a trace, declared dead by the very family now trembling in their seats. Alessia's breath hitched. Marco's eyes widened. Even Leonardo, untouchable Leonardo, took a step back. The storm behind Valerio framed him like a wrathful ghost returned to reclaim vengeance. His soaked coat clung to his shoulders, water dripping from his dark hair, but his gaze burned with clarity and power, nothing like the broken man the newspapers once described. You, Leonardo whispered, disbelief cracking his voice. You're supposed to be dead, Valerio finished sharply. You made sure everyone believed it, including her. His chin tilted toward Alessia, and her stomach twisted. She remembered bits of rumors, stories of sibling rivalry, power struggles, whispers that Leonardo had always coveted what belonged to Valerio. That's impossible, Leonardo croaked, struggling to regain composure. You were gone. You vanished. You tried to erase me, Valerio said, stepping closer. You took the empire, the respect, the control, and now I see you've taken cruelty to a whole new level. Leonardo's fingers twitched around the scissors still in his hand. Security, he barked, voice cracking. Remove him! But not a single guard moved. Some exchanged nervous glances. Others took one look at Valerio and subtly stepped aside. Loyalty, long suppressed, was resurfacing like a tide. Valerio smirked at his brother's terror. Still commanding fear, but you've forgotten how to command loyalty. He approached the stage, eyes narrowing as he saw Marco restrained and bleeding. What is this, Leo? He asked, voice dangerously calm. Your version of justice? Torture? Public humiliation? Leonardo's mask began to slip, panic threading through his expression. This woman betrayed me. She humiliated me. You don't know what she's done. What you've done, he corrected coldly, is turn love into a weapon and obsession into sport. Alessia stared up at Valerio, overwhelmed by the chaos crashing around her. Why are you here? She whispered, barely trusting the words. He looked at her for the first time, really looked, and she felt as exposed as when Leonardo ripped the necklace from her throat. I came because I received a letter from Marco, weeks ago. Marco's head jerked up, despite the pain.
What? Alessia breathed. He begged for help, said Leonardo would kill him if he didn't disappear forever, said you were trapped, that he'd do anything to save you. Alessia's heart cracked open all over again, this time with a different kind of pain. Love, loyalty, guilt. Marco had never abandoned her. He had been trying to save her. Leonardo barked a bitter laugh, though it sounded more like a choked sob. Of course Marco dragged you into this. You always wanted to steal everything from me. Valerio stepped closer, their faces mere inches apart. No, Leonardo, you stole from yourself and from her. He turned to the crowd, families of power, wealth, and influence, all now silent as statues. This spectacle ends now. Leonardo lunged, rage exploding into violence, raising the golden scissors like a blade. But Valerio moved faster, snatching his wrist mid-strike. The metal clattered across the marble, skidding beneath a table. Leonardo tried to shove past him, but Valerio locked his arm around him, forcing him onto his knees, the same position Leonardo demanded from Alessia. The symbolism struck everyone like lightning. Guests gasped. The guards stepped back. Marco's mother sobbed in relief. Valerio leaned close, whispering so only Leonardo could hear, but loud enough for Alessia to see the cruel twist of truth in her husband's eyes. You fear kneeling because you know submission is the closest you'll ever come to love. He released him with a shove. Leonardo collapsed, palms slamming to the marble. His breath came in ragged gasps, his perfect image fractured. Get Marco released. The guards obeyed instantly, untying Marco. He stumbled forward, barely able to stand until Alessia caught him. Their bodies collided, the weight of fear and longing breaking into a desperate embrace.
I thought I lost you, she cried into his shoulder. You'll never lose me, he whispered back, voice hoarse but sure. Not again. Valerio watched them, his stern expression softening for the briefest moment. Leonardo, still on his knees, glared with venom deeper than hatred. You think you've won? He spat. The family will never accept this. They'll turn on you. The family, Valeria repeated slowly, has already chosen. Eyes in the room avoided Leonardo, filled with shame for watching his cruelty unfold without intervening. Desperation twisted Leonardo's features into something unrecognizable. He scrambled to his feet, pointing a shaking finger at Alessia. She is poison. She played us both. You don't know what she's capable of. I know exactly what she's capable of. Strength, perseverance, love. He stepped forward, shielding Alessia and Marco behind him. And you will never hurt her again. It's time to finish this. Valerio nodded, something like pride flickering in his gaze. But before any plan could form, the hallway lights flickered, the chandeliers swayed again. A sinister hum pulsed through the walls. A voice boomed from the hidden speakers, echoing through every corner of the mansion. You think you've taken control? Leonardo's voice, cold, steady, sharper than before. But you've only provoked the beast. Every door slammed shut at once. The guests screamed. Metal bars clamped down over the windows. The mansion locked itself, sealing everyone inside. Leonardo's laughter flooded the room, dripping with madness. And now, let us finish the show properly. A crackling sound rippled through the hall as hidden generators kicked in, bathing the space in a sinister red glow. The elegant ballroom transformed into a gilded prison. Panic surged through the crowd, elite guests clawing at locked exits, calling for help that would never reach them. Alessia's breath came quick and sharp. Marco's weight sagged against her, his strength fading. Valerio positioned himself in front of them, eyes scanning every corner, calculating. Leonardo's voice continued, dripping through the speakers like poison. You thought embarrassing me would be the end of it? No, that was just the opening act. A sharp click sounded above. The massive curtains drew back to reveal the upper balcony, where Leonardo now stood. His once polished look was replaced by a wildness that made the air thick with fear.
His eyes, glossy and unhinged, gleamed as he stared down at them. In his hand, he held a pistol. Alessia's heart plummeted. Guests screamed and ducked, chaos exploding like a wave. Marco tried to step in front of her, but his legs buckled, and he coughed more blood.
"Leonardo!" Valerio shouted, stepping forward with authoritative command. "Put the weapon down." "You want them to believe you're the hero?" Leonardo interrupted, laughing, a jagged, broken sound. "You always pretended to be the savior, but I know the truth. You're just as tainted as the rest of us." He pointed the gun at his brother, hand shaking with rage. "You came back from the dead just to steal what little I have left." "This isn't about me," Valerio said, voice calm but fierce. "This is about your future. There's still a path that doesn't end in blood." Leonardo sneered. "Blood has always been our path." He suddenly swung the gun toward Marco. Alessia gasped and pulled Marco against her, shielding him with her own body. "No!" she cried. Leonardo's expression twisted. "Look at you, still pretending to love him, when we both know what you truly crave. Power, money, security. If he hadn't disappeared, you would have dragged him down too." "That's not true," Alessia shouted back, tears cutting through the panic. "I loved him before any of this existed, before the mansions, before the lies." "And yet you married me," Leonardo snapped. "Not out of love, out of convenience." The words stabbed deep, because part of them were true, and part of them were the very reason she hated herself. Marco forced a breath, eyes burning with defiance. "She married you because you trapped her. You manipulated every weakness she had." Leonardo's jaw clenched hard enough to crack. "I saved her. I gave her a life. I protected her when you abandoned her." "I never abandoned her." Marco shut back, clutching his ribs. "Your men nearly killed me. Don't rewrite history just because the truth disgusts you." His silence was confirmation. The truth he'd buried had been torn open for everyone to see.
Valerio took a slow step forward. "Let them go, Leo. Surrender now, and I give you my word. No one will harm you." Leonardo's eyes narrowed, filled with a hatred older than the walls surrounding them. "Your word means nothing. You lost your right to speak into my life when you left me to rot in your shadow." A few guests screamed as he fired a warning shot into the ceiling, crystal fragments raining down. Panic surged again. "I have been humiliated, ridiculed, betrayed, but tonight everyone will remember my name." He pressed a button beside him. Hidden panels along the walls hissed open. Not guards, not guns, but screens, dozens of them. Cameras activated, angled at the terrified crowd, at Marco bleeding in Alessia's arms, at Valerio standing resolute. This wasn't just vengeance anymore. It was a broadcast. Leonardo spread his arms like a twisted ringmaster. The world will watch the truth unfold. Valerio growled under his breath. He's streaming this. Marco winced, gripping Alessia's hand. He's going to do something irreversible. Leonardo seemed to hear him. He smirked. Exactly. He adjusted the gun, finger tightening. Alessia couldn't think, couldn't breathe. Every second stretched into agony. Then, without warning, the lights flickered again. A glitch. Not from Storm, from inside the system. A new voice came through the speakers, glitchy, masked, distorted. "Enough theatrics, Leonardo." Leonardo froze, startled. "Who?" The screens shifted, scrambling static until one clear image took over. A masked figure in black, seated before a bank of stolen security feeds, their voice wrapped around every corner of the room. "We've been watching you." Valerio stiffened, immediately alert. Hackers, but not random ones. A symbol flashed briefly. A raven with fractured wings. The Raven Syndicate, the underground network Valerio once controlled. Leonardo's hand shook visibly now. You traitors! You lost your sanity, the masked figure replied. You threaten our interests, our stability, and you crossed the line the moment you turned your empire into a circus. Leonardo trembled, not from rage, from fear. You can't control me. We already are. A door behind him burst open, and two masked operatives rushed in. Leonardo fired wildly, grazing one, but they surged forward, overpowering him in seconds, forcing him against the rail of the balcony. The crowd gasped as the guns skittered away, clattering to the ballroom floor. Leonardo screamed, a wounded animal's final cry. Alessia clung to Marco, breathless, hope flickering alive again. The masked figure's voice deepened. You threatened what is ours. Consider this your last act. Leonardo struggled, eyes wild, just inches from a deadly fall. Valerio shouted, "Don't kill him! There's another way!" But Leonardo, pride shattered beyond repair, spat one final curse. You all deserve to burn! And in one violent surge, he wrenched free of his captors, throwing himself over the railing. Alessia shrieked, the crowd gasped. Time slowed. Leonardo's body spiraled downward toward the marble floor. But just before the impact, he crashed through the glass dome of a lower atrium, disappearing into darkness. A chilling silence consumed the hall. No one moved. Even the storm outside seemed to hold its breath. Valerio ran toward the staircase, shouting for medics. Guards scrambled to unlock exits. The guests, once eager spectators, now scrambled to escape the nightmare they'd applauded minutes earlier. Marco's knees buckled again, and Alessia lowered him gently to the floor, cradling him with trembling arms. "It's over," she whispered, voice breaking. Marco shook his head weakly. "No, Alessia. With men like him," his eyes flicked toward the shattered atrium below, "it's never over." The mansion lights flickered again, just once, and somewhere beneath them, in the ruined darkness, a single haunting laugh echoed back. The laugh rose like a ghost crawling from a grave, weak, ragged, but alive. Alessia's blood iced. Marco tightened his grip on her arm despite the pain, his message clear. Leonardo wasn't finished. Emergency lights flashed brighter as guards rushed toward the shattered dome. Medics and servants pushed past fleeing guests. The once chaotic crowd now acted as though the mansion itself might swallow them whole if they lingered. Valerio appeared at Alessia's side, chest heaving. Rainwater dripped from his coat, mixing with the marble floor's scattered diamonds, her diamonds, symbols of a life she no longer recognized. "Take Marco somewhere safe," he ordered, voice sharp with urgency. "I'll deal with Leonardo." "No," Alessia replied instantly, fear and fury intertwining inside her. "Marco is hurt. He needs a hospital. But Leonardo, he is my responsibility. I should have stopped him long before tonight." Marco tugged at Valerio's sleeve with trembling fingers. "You'll need help. He's unhinged. He'll do anything to win." Valerio hesitated, just long enough for Alessia to see the war behind his eyes. Leader versus brother, duty versus regret. A guard rushed up, panting. "Sir, he fell into the lower atrium. We sent men down, but—" "But what?" Valerio snapped. "He's gone," the guard finished grimly. Blood on the glass, but no body. A chill swept the hall. The Raven Syndicate operatives exchanged nervous glances. "He's hiding in his own maze."
Alessia knew this house, its hidden doors, the underground passages Leonardo used to show off his brilliance. Once a charming novelty, now a labyrinth of threats. Valerio's jaw clenched. Lock down every sublevel, track heat signatures. He's injured and desperate. The masked Raven leader's voice returned, no longer broadcast to the hall, only to the three of them through a hidden comm line one operative held out.
"We can help," they said, "but he still has control of part of the system. He's cut power to the lower floors. We need time." "Time he'll use to regroup," Valerio muttered. Marco winced as he tried to stand straighter. "If Leonardo escapes this house, he'll hunt us, all of us." Alessia brushed her thumb across the dry blood on Marco's cheek, throat tightening. "We stop him before that happens." Valerio nodded once. Agreed. Marco's legs threatened to give again. Alessia slid her arm under him, refusing to let him collapse. "Take him," Valerio urged. "There's a medic room on the west wing where he'll be safe." Alessia glanced toward the direction Valerio pointed, dim corridors, flickering emergency lights, every shadow looking like it might spring to life. Safe felt like a lie, but Marco's body was shaking harder. His breaths were shallow. Internal bleeding was a real threat. Still, he grabbed Valerio's wrist again, eyes unwavering. "You protect her too. Promise me that." Valerio's voice dropped into something solemn. "With my life." A dangerous promise, but one he seemed ready to uphold. More guards arrived, escorting guests out as systems unlocked doors in sections. Screams faded into distant echoes. The storm's thunder returned as a reminder that the night itself was not done raging. Valerio turned to follow his operatives, into darkness, into whatever nightmare Leonardo prepared next. Alessia called after him softly. "Valerio." He stopped, glancing back. "Be careful." He gave her a look she couldn't decipher, some blend of regret, curiosity, maybe even admiration. "You too," he replied, before disappearing down the stairs. The West Wing hallway felt colder than the rest of the mansion. Emergency lights flickered weakly above. Alessia half-dragged Marco forward, his breathing wet with each step. She couldn't help but glance back constantly, expecting Leonardo's silhouette to emerge from the dark. Marco noticed her tremors. "He won't touch you again." "You can't know that," she whispered. "I do," he insisted, gripping her hand. "Because I'll die before I let him." "Don't say that," she snapped, voice cracking. "You're not dying. Not tonight." He tried to smile, but winced instead. "Yes, ma'am." She kissed his forehead quickly, desperate, then pushed on. The medic room was near. She remembered the sign carved into the oak door. But before they reached it, all lights died. Complete darkness. Marco froze. Alessia's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Then, a whisper. Not in the room. Not in the hall. Inside the walls. "You think you can hide?" Leonardo. Alessia clutched Marco closer. "Keep moving," she breathed. They shuffled forward blindly, hands scraping wallpaper, feet stumbling on carpeting, trying to find that door. Another whisper, closer, behind them. "I built this house. I know every inch, every scream." Alessia fumbled for anything. Her hands grazed a wall sconce, cold metal. Her fingers slid and felt something sharper. An antique dagger mounted decoratively. She yanked it free, the screw tearing loose with a crunch. Marco leaned heavily against the wall. "Use it," he muttered. "I will," she whispered. A dim emergency light flickered back on, just enough to illuminate the far end of the hall. A shape appeared, limping, dragging one leg, breathing ragged. Leonardo. His suit was torn, soaked in blood from the fall, hair slicked back in a crimson streak, but his eyes, burning, relentless, had never been clearer. "You took everything from me," he rasped. "My power, my pride, my family." His gaze slid to Marco, then to the knife in Alessia's hand. "And now? You want to take my life?" He laughed softly, shaking his head. "No, I won't give Valerio this satisfaction. You'll choose, Alessia." He stepped forward, gunless but deadlier than before. "You can kill me," he breathed, opening his arms wide. "Or I'll kill him." Marco stiffened. Alessia felt her world tilt. "It's simple," he whispered, voice trembling with twisted devotion. "Show me who you truly love." Alessia's grip tightened on the dagger. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Leonardo took one more step, and Marco suddenly shoved her aside, stumbling forward despite his injuries. "If it's a choice," he said, panting, eyes blazing with sacrifice, "you die." He waited until her scream became a silence so sharp it could slice open truth. Elena staggered backward from the pile of photographs, her breath chopping in panicked bursts. The faces staring back, her, Adrian, the hotel hallways, secret touches and stolen corners. Everything she prayed would remain buried now stood exposed under the chandelier's cold light. "You planned this," she whispered, but her voice trembled too much to carry certainty. Isaac's jaw tightened. "Every detail. And you brought them? His family?" Her eyes darted to the stunned parents on the couch, Adrian's younger sister gripping the armrest as if it was saving her from drowning. Their anger, their betrayal, it was too large for the room. "You didn't just betray me," Isaac said. "You betrayed them, and they deserve truth. All of it." Elena's composure cracked. "But I love him." "No," Isaac replied, stepping forward. "You loved secrets. You loved the thrill of the lie. If you loved him, you wouldn't have destroyed everything he cared about." Adrian looked as though someone had carved all the color from him. He had been silent too long. Finally, he exhaled a laugh, broken, sardonic. "You said," he began slowly, like words hurt to form, "that I was the only real thing in your life."
Elena's lips quivered. "You are... So why?" Adrian asked, stepping closer. "Did you leave a trail right back to his house? Messages, hotel receipts paid with his card, photos taken with your phone." He paused. "It's almost like you wanted to be caught." Her heart clenched, because that was the secret she never dared speak aloud. Isaac tilted his head, eyes narrowing. Is that what this was? A deliberate demolition? Elena's throat locked. The truth was messy, humiliating. Isaac had become predictable, stable, steady, in the way only a good man could be. And she, craving chaos, had chased fire and convinced herself it was warmth. But she never thought the fire would burn this large. "Say it," Isaac demanded. "Say why you did it." Elena's silence answered everything. Adrian's father rose, his voice cracking from the weight of disappointment. "We welcomed you into our home, into our confidence, and this is what you do?" Elena fell to her knees, grabbing at the air for words that wouldn't come. Isaac tilted his head. Inside his eyes there was nothing but gloom. He stood still, hands behind his back, as though the only thing keeping him from collapsing was discipline. "You stole years from me," he said quietly. "Years I can't get back." She crawled toward him, tears streaking, reaching for his pant leg. "Please, just punish me, hate me, but don't leave me alone in this." Isaac stepped back. "No, you don't get to ask anything anymore." He motioned toward the doors. The security staff he had stationed outside, one of the many precautions he had taken during his weeks of evidence collection, entered wordlessly. Adrian looked at Elena one last time. The pain in his eyes wasn't anger anymore, it was mourning. I hope you find a version of yourself you can live with, because this one only knows destruction. His mother followed, hiding her devastated sobs behind shaking hands. His father placed a firm grip on his son's shoulder, guiding him out before he could look back. When the doors closed behind them, the sound echoed like the ceiling of a tomb. Elena pushed the photos away, like if she scattered them far enough, her guilt would scatter too. "I can fix this," she begged, her voice hoarse. "Tell me what to do. Tell me and I'll do it." "It's already done," he replied. He pulled out a final envelope. She stared at it as if it would bite her. "A divorce settlement," he explained, "signed by me. You sign and you walk away with whatever dignity you can still drag behind you." Her nails scratched against the polished floor. "A divorce? But, Isaac, please." "I thought you'd say that, because what terrified you most wasn't losing me, it was losing the life I gave you." He knelt in front of her, not with tenderness, but with the solemnity of a judge delivering sentence. "You were my world, and you destroyed it for excitement." Elena's sob ran jagged. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "You're not sorry," he corrected softly. "You're just finally facing consequences." She tried to grab his wrist, but he slipped away like the last strand of a dream. He stood, turning his back on her, as if looking at her too long might undo his resolve. "I invited them," he said, voice steady now, "so they could witness the truth, so they'd never blame themselves, so Adrian would know you chose to lie, not because he wasn't enough, but because nothing ever is." Those words crushed her more thoroughly than the evidence on the floor. He walked toward the door. "Isaac!" she screamed. He paused only once, hand on the handle. "This was the day you thought you'd control," he said without turning. "But today, the truth belonged to me." When he stepped out, 2 guards gently lifted her to her feet. The envelope lay beside her hand, her last chance at a graceful exit, if such a thing still existed. The massive doors closed, splitting the room into a before and after. Elena stared into the silence he left behind. Her empire of lies, once thrilling and secret, now lay in ruins at her knees. And one truth remained. She had invited ruin, brick by brick. He only made sure she had an audience.